One America's Trey Yingst is at the White House, and we want to bring him in to preview this event. Hi, Trey. What can we expect from today's meeting between the two leaders?
That's right, another major meeting for the Trump administration today here in the East Room of the White House. Now, following this joint press conference, both the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Donald Trump will hold bilateral meetings to discuss a wide range of topics. Obviously, a lot of news coming out of the White House today. You might remember back in September, the United States putting forth a $38 billion deal with the Israelis over the next decade when it comes to military aid. So a strong relationship in the past for the Israelis and the U.S. government, so we can expect to see more conversations about that here today at the White House when both the Israeli delegation and the U.S. delegation meet following this joint press conference. Now, a number of other topics are likely to be discussed today. Obviously, during the former Obama administration, Israel and the United States had an extremely close relationship, and we can expect that relationship to continue under the Trump administration. And like I said, today, one of the major topics to be discussed during these bilateral meetings is where the U.S. embassy will end up in Israel. Currently, it resides in Tel Aviv. There's been a lot of talk here at the White House and in Washington about moving the embassy over to Jerusalem, but there's also been some controversy on the ground there, whether or not this would create chaos or any sort of conflict in the region. So that will be a major discussion point today. Also, the idea of a two-state solution. Early on in the campaign, President Donald Trump said that the only way to peace would be a two-state solution. The administration has walked those comments back a little bit, so it's going to be interesting to see here today in the East Room of the White House what President Donald Trump wants the Israeli-Palestinian situation to look like moving forward. Additionally, the Iranian nuclear deal is going to be a big topic of conversation. Obviously, the Israelis upset that a lot of those sanctions were unfrozen under the Obama administration. They feel that weapons could be developed that could ultimately threaten the state of Israel. So it will be interesting to see where President Donald Trump stands on those issues. And then additionally, settlement expansion in the region. Obviously, a number of conflicts erupted over the past decade in the Israel, a country of Israel, following these conflicts that existed between the Israelis and the Palestinians. We saw Operation Protective Edge back in the summer of 2014 that unplayed in Gaza and the West Bank. Obviously, thousands of civilians and hundreds of military on the Palestinian side and the Israeli side being killed. So ultimately, President Donald Trump is going to want to put forth a plan that resolves peace in the Middle East. He wants to look for peace. So he's going to be looking to see where he can meet with the Israelis and where he can meet with the Palestinians to come to some common ground. We heard today that the current sitting CIA director, Mike Pompeo, actually met with the Palestinian leadership earlier this week in Ramallah. So it will be interesting to see if that is brought up today. But additionally, what we can see here today at the White House is President Donald Trump is going to look to bridge the gap between the Israelis and the Palestinians, ultimately looking for peace in the region.
Yeah, Trey, do we know anything about the CIA director speaking with Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian official? Do we know anything there, and if that is going to come up at all in this meeting, and if it might even create more conflict with Benjamin Netanyahu meeting with Trump today?
So I think it may create a little bit of tension between the two leaders. Obviously, Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to be pushing for that one-state solution representing Israel. Well, obviously, the Palestinian leadership and authority in Ramallah and the West Bank and Gaza as well are going to be pushing for a two-state solution, both leaders claiming ownership to the respective land. Mr. Trump is going to have a difficult situation moving forward where he's going to have to make sure he keeps both the Israelis and the Palestinians happy. Like I said, back in 2014, the major topic of conversation was settlement expansion into the West Bank. So I think we don't know much about that conversation that occurred between the CIA director, Mike Pompeo, and Palestinian leadership in Ramallah. But what we can expect to see moving forward is President Donald Trump looking to bring both parties to the table, no matter if it's a one-state solution or a two-state solution. Ultimately, President Donald Trump is going to have to bring both sides to the table to come to some common ground here to reduce the number of casualties that have occurred over the past decade when fighting occurred between both the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Now, do you have any insight on the general feeling with Congress about maybe changing from an Obama administration two-state solution to now potentially going to more of a one-state solution, or this ultimate deal that the president has been talking about?
So look, I think the main objective, the main goal for the Trump administration is going to be keeping Israel as their ally in the region. Obviously, a major player in U.S. security in the Middle East, has been a long friend of the United States for many, many years. So I think moving forward, President Trump and the administration is going to try to work with Congress to ultimately come up with something that is going to keep the Israelis happy. And as we see, they're looking to reach out to the Palestinians as well. So if he does put a one-state solution moving forward, supporting that for the Israeli government, you can expect the Trump administration to also keep the Palestinians in the loop. There are people that are living in the West Bank. There are people that are living in Gaza, and obviously those people are going to need a place to live. So if they're going to live, they would ultimately end up living under the Israeli government. Right now in the West Bank, many of those people actually have Israeli citizenship, so it may not be that huge of a transition. So I think we are going to see Congress, we are going to see the Trump administration, and we are going to see both sides of leaders in the Middle East, obviously the Palestinians and the Israelis, coming to the table to find some sort of solution that ultimately ends in peace in the region.
All right, Trey Yanks, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing this press conference between the president and the prime minister of Israel, and then speaking with you a little later on exactly what was talked about.